the current situation demands we reinforce. So what specifically demands the reinforcement that you are laying out today? And the reason I ask this, this is bilateral, as you said. Originally, you spoke at length several days ago about the NATO response force. They have not activated that. You are moving ahead bilaterally, not under a NATO umbrella anyhow. So what signal does that send that you're not waiting for a NATO vote? And what is the current situation that demands this reinforcement outside of Russia, outside of Ukraine? I don't think I heard a specific answer.
I think the signal it sends that we're moving additional U.S. forces into Allied territory at the request and with the invitation of those countries is that we take our NATO commitments very, very seriously. And I put that right in the opening statement. And as for, I think your question is sort of why now?
Why are you doing? I don't understand. I'd like an explanation why you're doing this now without the vote at NATO, which does not appear readily apparent, for them to activate the response force. What has led you to say, okay, the United States will act on a bilateral basis? You have the invitations. You could have waited for a NATO vote. You decided not to. So what is
well, it's not just us, Barb. Other nations, and I mentioned Denmark, the UK, France. I mean, other nations, other NATO nations are likewise discussing in bilateral ways with Eastern flank nations the addition of forces and capabilities to those nations. So it's not just the United States; it's other NATO allies that are doing this. And you talk about this vote thing. Let's be clear. What I think you're getting at is the NATO response force. That's a 40,000 person strong force that is designed for high readiness, and that is a decision that the alliance and only the alliance can make. We have a contribution to that. We have gotten those forces alerted to be ready to go if needed, and they still will be. We also can, if the president decides, as commander-in-chief, to take some of those alerted forces and move them in a bilateral arrangement as well, he can do that. As I said at the top, it's not like the alliance has a veto authority on any of those troops that were put on prepare to deploy. But in terms of why now, here's just a couple of factors. Mr. Putin continues to add forces. Combined arms, offensive capabilities, even over just the last 24 hours. He continues to add in Western Russia and in Belarus, and again, as I said, in the Mediterranean and the North Atlantic. He has shown no signs of being interested or willing to de-escalate the tensions. And it's not just the United States that's noticed this. Our NATO allies have noticed this, and we have been in constant communication and consultation with them, and they have expressed their concerns. We have shared our perspectives on what we're seeing with them. They have shared their perspectives on what they're seeing with us. And as a result of these bilateral discussions, we are now prepared to make these moves. I say again, two things. These are temporary moves, not permanent deployments, not permanent basing. And two, we're not ruling out the possibility that there will be more coming up in future days and weeks.